In this video, I will provide you with a way that you can use conventional framed roof rafters and ceiling joist to build some type of a system or ceiling that will allow you to install larger insulation. And that insulation will usually be installed in between the ceiling joists like we have it here, and can actually create a problem if you need to install ventilation blocks at the lower sections of the roof rafters or underneath the roof eaves or roof overhang. So here we have a standard method of construction using roof rafters and ceiling joists. Our ceiling joists are going to act as our rafter ties. And if you don't need to raise it too high, you can usually install some type of a framing plate on top of the ceiling joist. Now this might require you to block the ceiling joist or install additional building hardware. And you could always install more than one plate. I don't know if you could install more than 3 framing plates, but that will provide you with another suggested assembly method. And you can see here where we've almost doubled our insulation space. And by building it this way, I think all you're going to be doing will be installing some more blocks and another framing plate. However, the exterior of the building is going to be a little bit higher, so you're going to need to compensate for that if you're going to be installing siding, especially if that siding is going to be plywood that comes in 8-foot lengths, and definitely something to keep in mind. So we're going to have an 8-foot ceiling on the interior. However, we're going to have a little taller wall on the exterior underneath the eaves. And if we need to go a little taller, we need a little more space for insulation. We can extend the height of all of the walls that the roof rafters are going to sit on. However, we won't need to extend the height of the walls that the rafters will not be sitting on or the interior walls. And if we raise the height of the ceiling, we can just simply raise the height of the walls a little further. And this is probably going to be the method most of you are going to use if you really need to pack the insulation in there. And of course, we will be using a ledger with hangers for our ceiling. And some building departments will allow you to install the insulation all the way up without fire blocks, because the insulation is going to make it difficult for air to travel through this area in the same way that a fire block would work. However, you would need to check with your local building department to verify that information. And I'm not even going to guess at how big this monster is here, or whether or not you're going to start piling up layers of R30 insulation. And if you are going to pile layers of R30, make sure that you don't have any of the facing on them or the paper. You can have the paper on the bottom, but I don't think you can have it in between the other layers of insulation. And another thing that you might need to do if the height of the wall is a little too tall will be to install some type of bracing. And I will not be able to provide you with an estimated height of when you might need to do something like this, or when you might not need to install some type of building hardware to connect the ledger to the wall framing, or use some type of a strap to connect the ceiling joist to the wall framing. Because keep in mind that here we're going to have a separation point between the joist and the ledger and the wall framing. And if we could eliminate that by using this, then great. If not, then we might need to use a strap. And keep in mind that I don't have a hanger on here, but more than likely you are going to need hangers all the way across to support every ceiling joist. And if that doesn't work, then you might be able to use some type of a brace like this to create some type of a rafter tie. Cannot be spaced more than 4 foot on center. They can be spaced closer, but they can't be spaced farther. Now, if all of that doesn't work, you might need to install another rafter tie, a separate rafter tie to hold all of this stuff together. And again, those rafter ties might be able to be spaced 4 foot on center. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up by pointing out that these are not the only ways you can do something like this to create a ceiling that will be used for taller ceiling insulation.